What's up, beautiful people? Today we're going to be checking out Ghana's president's amazing speech about Africa. Let's get to it.
I think that the things that have brought us here today tell us a lot about the development of our continent of Africa. I'm beginning by saying that the place of the diaspora, the status of people in the diaspora, of the African diaspora, is intimately linked with what happens on the continent. And Africa strong and performing transforms your position and your status here in Europe. But an Africa which continues to live the narrative of poverty, hungry children, people going across the Sahara, going in rickety boats and dying in Lampedusa to get to Europe. That Africa is not a narrative that is going to help you over here. So I think between you and us, our main task is the transformation of the continent. And why do I say so? Just one simple example. The Chinese diaspora is supposed to be some 60 million people. And in the table of states, they constitute the 25th country in the world. They're saying that of the 52 billion foreign investment that went into China in the 80s and 90s that transformed China into what it is today, the manufacturing hub of the world. 50% of that, 26%, came from the Chinese overseas community. And that development of China that has taken place has changed the status and the position of Chinese all over the world.
Is that what Tinubu is trying to do? Because we just heard recently that he signed a deal or contract with Israel, but then he's basically made a free visa for Nigerians to go join the Israeli army. Do you think that's a good thing to do? Because I think he's trying to get diaspora remittance. I think that's what it's called. Is that what he's trying to get? Or like people have criticized that he's trying to send Nigerians to go and die. Let me know what the idea is, because I'm trying to understand. When I saw the video, I saw the update, I was trying to understand the thinking process that went into making such a decision, but I'm not quite sure. I don't know if he's trying to get the diaspora remittance or there is another reasoning for it. Talk to me about it.
So I want you to take those statistics very seriously, because that is the transformative connection that we want to make with the African diaspora. How to implicate it in the development of the continent. Once we change the narrative about Africa, and we can only do it ourselves, we have to get away from the idea that there's some Father Christmas somewhere who's going to come and develop our continent for us. There is no such Father Christmas. There's just us who are going to be able to develop our continent. So once that mentality is our mentality, then we have to do it ourselves. Then our relations with other people become that much more structured and punctilious, if you like. Our relations with France, our relations with Europe. Our relations with Europe is a natural one. You look at the geography of the world, Africa and Europe are natural partners. There's just this small strip of water, the Mediterranean, that separates the two of us. So when you look at that, and you look also at the history that has gone on between Africa and Europe, that is a natural relationship and a natural alliance, but a relationship that has to be different from the relationship that we've had up to now. Why do I say so? That relationship has enriched Europe, but has not enriched Africa. So
is he saying it's parasitic? Just trying to understand.
We need to change that dynamic. And we can only do it by ourselves taking the correct measures for our future. So that's where my focus is. And that's why I'm very excited about the possibility of having this encounter, that we can all begin to speak the same language, the language of cooperation, the language of collaboration, but to a different end. It cannot be right that the continent that has allegedly the wealthiest resources of all the continents of the world is also the home of the poorest people on the globe. That disconnect is not a good disconnect, and we need to work to change that disconnect. So when we're then talking about the need for self-reliance, it is because particularly important is to recognize that we have the resources. We have the youngest population in the world. 25% of our population is under the age of, 19. It's a huge amount of resource, of potential strength. And once we do the educating, we find the means to do the educating of this population and giving it skills, then we are putting Africa on a path of very, very strong economic growth. We can replicate what has been done in Asia if, like them, we maintain the discipline and the correct analysis of what we need to do to move our continent forward. But really, if they've been able in Asia in a generation to transform the lives of hundreds of millions of Chinese, hundreds of millions of Indians, why can we not replicate that same phenomenon on our continent? We can do it. And I have no doubt that those of you here can make a big input into that transformation that we're all looking for. And when we're saying this, and it's very important that we recognize that we're not saying we're turning our back on the world. No, we can't do that. We live on the same planet. We need the association and the partnership with countries like France, with the technologies that they have developed here, their savoir-faire in many, many areas. All those things are matters that we can profitably associate and benefit from. But all of it, always, from an understanding that it is for us to define the relationship that we want with the rest of the world. We shouldn't be caught up in a language or a narrative that says that we are appendages to other people's thinking, other people's policies, other people's volonté. That will not help us. So, Mr. President, we're saying the time has come for us to take our destiny in our own hands. It's now 6 decades since the independence movement swept Africa. And those who led it, did so on the understanding that independence would bring not just freedom as sovereign states, but would also provide us the base for the social and economic transformation of our countries. That still hasn't happened. But the pointers are all very, very positive towards the future. And there are several countries on the continent. I would get into a lot of trouble if I started identifying them here, as I should mention, and I won't mention anyone. But there are several on the continent that visibly you can see are on the right way forward for what we need to do. But in concluding, there's just one thing that I want to say to my brothers and my sisters of the African diaspora in this room. And that is something that perhaps when I hear the way in which there's a lot of concern about the status in France and barriers in France. But there's one thing that all of you should remember, and I hope that you will associate this with me. The destiny of all black people in the world, wherever they are, is bound up with Africa. Let me repeat that. The destiny of all black people in the world is bound up with Africa. And a performing Africa elevates the status of all black people around the world. And non-performing Africa continues the situation where black people around the world are looked at. So, thank you for this opportunity to come and speak to you.
On peut faire beaucoup ensemble. Voilà ce que je voulais dire.
Yeah, that was a good speech. I feel like the man is a good speaker. As far as his leadership, I do not know if he's a good leader. I'm not in Ghana anymore. I haven't been since 2016. But let me know how he is as a leader, because he seems to have a lot to say and a lot of vision about where Africa should be at, you know, the independence of Africa. He spoke a little bit about Africa being able to produce Yeah, let me know what you think. He said the relationship between the West, Europe, and Africa needs to be redefined, needs to be changed. Is he making efforts to do that? And also, when this relationship is changed, now I get it that we can blame Europe and the West and France, everybody for the problems in Africa. But the thing is, if these problems, let's say France leaves these countries they colonized, will these countries be better? We need to put it into account. We can't just keep blaming. And now when all these problems are being taken care of, and then Africa is still faced with this corruption and leaders that still want to keep exploiting and extorting from the common man. So we need to understand this too, that as much as we want to blame other people, we also should hold ourselves accountable. We should manage Africa the right way. We should stop stealing from our own people, I'm just saying, because I don't want us to get lost in the blames or lost in the distribution of blames and forget that we are also responsible for what we cause. Because these deals, we most of our leaders signed it. Yeah, I just learned about I've called this in about 3 videos now, the Niger uranium sales. So the fair market price, like Canada has been selling uranium per kilogram for $200, I think, dollars. Niger was selling for 0.8, not even 1, not 20, 0.8, and the fair market price is 200. Isn't that crazy? And there's probably leaders who knew about this and they let it slide. So yeah, as much as we want to hold other people accountable, don't forget to hold ourselves. We shouldn't forget to hold ourselves accountable. It was a good one. Feel free to share your thoughts. If you're in Ghana, you want to tell us about Nana Akufo-Addo, feel free to let me know. A lot of people still prefer Mahama. I've been watching lots of videos, people saying Mahama would have done a way better job. Well, I don't know about that, but you can tell me. Smash the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace. I made this better.